Well, that's more like it. I think we're on. We found our way back. Happy, happy, happy Cinco de Mayo. And in celebration thereof, let's have a little music. Where do I find a little music? How about there? Yeehaw! Ole! Guadalajara! Well, that's the start of our program, such as it is. And I will have to say who I am. I am Jeff Bosshard, one of the hosts of this Freedom Forum on Santa Cruz Voice Radio. And with me today is my co-host, Vernon Bohr. Hello, Vernon.
Hello, Jeff.
And how are you this fine holiday?
I am just fine.
I think the holidays are something we've been blessed with over this year. We had started with Washington's birthday. We did that. And had Martin Luther King Day, Cesar Chavez Day.
Did we have a President's Day?
I think we did that on Washington's birthday. Maybe we did 2 weeks worth on that because we have so many presidents. We could do that. So I don't know. Maybe we're running out of Monday holidays, but so many of them were pushed into Mondays, and here we are pushed into the show, and we might as well enjoy it because here we are.
How about Toxic White Men's Day?
I think we need to get that one going, whatever it is.
Everyone wants a day of their own.
Every dog has his day.
That's right.
So they say. We're not ready for commercials yet, so let me just say that this is a talk show, and we are prepared to receive calls. Actually, we were until I lost almost everything on my computer here. But we can get that back, and as soon as we do, then we want you to try to call in at our special number, 265-5050. And I might as well get that one going right away. But I first want to say a little bit more about Cinco de Mayo. First of all, it is not the celebration of Mexican independence. That's celebrated on another day, which is the most important holiday in Mexico. And so we better tell you when it is. It's September 16. It's a long way from May. But for the Spanish-speaking people here, Mexico's celebration is a victory over the Second French Empire at the Battle of Puglia in 1862, led by General Ignacio Zaragoza. More popular, perhaps, in the United States than in Mexico, Cinco de Mayo has become associated with the celebration of Mexican-American culture. Celebrations began in Columbia, California, where they have been observed annually ever since 1862, the year that they had this famous victory. The day gained nationwide popularity behind those of Mexican-American heritage in the 1980s due to advertising campaigns by beer, wine, and tequila companies. Today, Cinco de Mayo generates beer sales on a par with the Super Bowl. In Mexico, the commemoration of the battle continues to be mostly ceremonial, such as through military parades or battle reenactments. The city of Puebla marks the event with various festivals and reenactments of the battle. So, even though it's not an official American holiday, that means you don't expect schools to be closed, nor banks or other government offices, including, most importantly, the post office. They should be open today if they're open on any day at all. So, Vernon, have you done anything special today to celebrate this Cinco de Mayo?
I have not, Jeff.
Well, you're not remiss.
Here.
You're not remiss in your duties. It's just a question of what is your duty? You do what you need to do, and that's good enough for us. So the point is, I would like you to tell us what your favorite holiday, what holiday would you like to see observed, so we can talk about that.
That's a tough one. I never really think about that very much, and I think that the holidays that we've set up as a nation, for the most part, have lost their significance because we just look at them as days to party, not to celebrate. So 4th of July, it's time to get a long weekend. We moved all the holidays around.
Not the 4th of July, though. Independence Day, don't we do that on the 4th?
We celebrate that one. But we actually, I guess we keep it on the 4th. But so many of them are just reasons to party, and I don't have any problem with that. Let's just make some party days.
I get it. I'll take it. So, well, we've been talking already. I think that we're getting ready to be hosting a show.
Yes.
That's a good thing. By having phone calls. That would be a good thing. So let's see if it's happening. We'll tell them we're ready, and we're going to connect to the show. And from what it says, we're able to receive calls. So I'm going to go with that. Audience, let's hear from you. What do you think about this Cinco de Mayo or other holidays? And what else would you like us to be thinking about or talking about as we go forward? I can say this, that we have a page full of things that are important to us news-wise. And the top of my list, Vernon, is the question of, are we in the midst of a constitutional crisis? Is that on your mind too?
No. It is on my mind that the people think that many people are claiming we're in the midst of a constitutional crisis, when I don't think we are. I think that things are moving along as they're supposed to, that there is a struggle for the hearts and minds of the citizenry among different ideas of how things should be run. And we've gotten to the point that if it's not my way, it's either my way or the highway.
Ooh, that sounds dangerous.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm troubled by this. I'm troubled by an age in which we're living where everyone has access to technology and looks for arguments supporting their particular beliefs. And if you don't agree with them, you're wrong, they're right, you haven't done your research, you don't know what you're talking about, and it's pulling us apart. And that's what I have a real problem with, is that we don't see that. I've had an interaction going on with a friend that I have, and they were telling me how upset that that they're worried, that the country's not being run by Trump. It's something deeper. It's being run by the behind the scenes people from Project 25. Well, on the other side of that, you have the notion of the deep state. So everyone's got some sort of idea that in the normal course of arguing, which we have done as human beings since the beginning of time, that something's wrong now. And if I don't get it my way, something's really wrong. So I don't think we're in a constitutional crisis. I think it's working the way it's supposed to.
Back to some aspects of that, I'm going to backtrack a little bit and say that when you talk about people thinking that the Heritage Foundation, which gave us Project 2025, is actually managing Trump, and of course he's got a whole bunch of co-managers with him and department heads, it sounds like a carryover from what people were saying about the Biden administration. Where was he with his head all bulged up from the obvious appearance he made in the June primary debate, where basically the department, the whole Democratic Party kind of fell apart and said, oh, this guy's got to go. And they started nursing along this Kamala Harris person, much to their later chagrin. So here we are. We have two separate, distinct administrations in our executive department. And in both of them, people are claiming that someone else is running the show. But have you ever sat down and listened to Donald Trump in any kind of interview? He can talk to you about any subject. He's got the figures all in his head and can promote whatever he wants to talk about. He may do it in a kind of a strange Trumpian way, but it's his way. And you got to say, no matter what you think of him, he's more transparent than almost any president we've had. I mean, it's almost every day has a separate press conference or some kind of meeting, and all the text of it is set out there. There's no one saying that it's a fake, something made a fake recording or edited it, as on perhaps 60 Minutes. That's not the real point. The point is, how do we take the elections? How do we adjust to them in such a way? As I was reading in one of the articles in my quarterly book I received from the National Association of Scholars, who are mostly concerned about schools and education, rightly so, because that's where they all come from, where they live. And they're talking about their colleagues who are some are in teaching, some are actually professionals in terms of mental health and counseling, and they're seeing a lot of clients that are very upset by what they're seeing out there. I mean, just the fact that the election didn't go their way. The next day they're calling their friends and say, are you as upset about all this as I am? Or are you feeling okay today? You know, it's hitting everyone like it's a serious matter. But that's a separate issue to me than what's really being called the threat to democracy, because they thought all along during the last campaign that Trump was a threat to democracy. They didn't really define what that democracy was, but I have to remember that it was a democracy that killed Socrates, so I'm not so happy about turning everything over to a pure democracy. So I think they were just talking about democratic ideals. But where have we had some points where we had a threat to democracy? Well, the first one I could think of was the Civil War.
Yeah.
That was a threat to democracy, not just because we were at war with ourselves internally, which is bad enough, but if we think in terms of the threat to democracy being the crossing the threshold between the three separate branches of government under a constitution, executive, legislative, and judicial. That's the one I was kind of focusing on today, because there's several conflicts. From on the one side, Trump will issue an executive order, then someone will bring a lawsuit to question that and have the courts weigh in on it, and then the courts will issue a ruling that tells what they are thinking about it. Now, somebody is logging in on our radio show talk line, and I don't know who it is yet, but I think that I should find out. I think it's someone named Dawn, D-A-W-N, so let's find out. Hello, Dawn, are you there?
Oh.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, great. Hey, how you guys doing?
You're the one that called from Salinas a week or two ago, and we
Yep.
appreciate that. How are you enjoying the show so far? You found out that we were finally able to start.
I'm liking it. Yeah, I was hearing about this stuff that for me, I think that Democrats get $5 every time they say constitutional crisis, rule of law, due process. They just get paid to say this over and over. And I don't think any of them have any earthly idea what they're even talking about. I mean, you were bringing up the Heritage Foundation. To me, I'm a simple person, and the Heritage Foundation are a bunch of toothless rhinos. Okay, and this Project 2025 was a wish list. They always put out these wish lists, but you stamp your feet on them, and they retreat back into their studies like possums, put their smoking jacket on, light a cigar, and read the Wall Street Journal, and say, I said my piece.
Yeah, well, the term, use the term rhino.
That?
When you say rhino, you mean Republicans in name only?
Right. Well, that's the best. That's the nicest name I can call them.
I didn't know if everybody would understand that.
They're a bunch of gutless wonders, is what they are.
Well, some of the non-rhinos are gutless too.
What's that?
Some of the
non-rhinos are gutless too.
Yeah. I mean, really,
yeah.
I mean, there are Republicans that really ought to do more to help their party, just as the Democrat Party needs really deep help from someone really based in whatever they're supposed to be standing for, because them standing outside the streets and yelling at everybody, or just calling Trump a fascist again, as they were doing during the campaign, That's not getting them
That's
anywhere.
that's what they do. That's all they can do. They have no intellect. They have nothing to stand on. They have no foundation. They have no principles. They have no morals. They don't even believe in God, the Democrats, okay? So that's all they got, is that they want to accuse Trump of what they really are, is all they can do. And I'm of the mind of leave Trump alone, let him do what he's doing. He's doing the right thing. And this stuff of comparing to 2025, look at one of the Heritage Foundations, and I know he's in there, Paul Ryan. Okay, Paul Ryan staggered around Washington, D.C. with a briefcase full of papers that he claimed was a budget that the United States could use to pay off the debt and all this other stuff. Nobody ever saw it, okay? But he was always threatening with it. Oh, one of these days I'm going to open my briefcase and I'm going to solve all the country's problems. You know, then look at him now. All he did was hinder Trump the whole time he was Speaker of the House, and he was worse than any Democrat. That's what the Heritage Foundation is to me. So I pay no attention to them. And President Trump is following the Constitution. He's following the Fifth Amendment. They're all claiming he's violating the Fifth Amendment for due process, but they have no real examples. The closest they got is this guy they got in Venezuela, which he's been in front of like 12 or 13 judges already. He's had every process due him. And he's gone. I mean, if they're really worried about that, set up a Zoom call.
Yeah, they can
so
do that.
He can watch the judge raise his gavel and go, "Stay out." That's it.
Yeah.
That's the most you can give him. But that's never going to happen. I mean, it's well. How do you think I sound?
Oh, you sound clear. It sounds like you're a very conservative person. You look at the parties from that aspect. You expect your Republicans, if you are on that side of things, to be stronger in their republicanism, be more, shall we say, conservative, conserve the good things that we have. But about that due process that one for Maryland dad that everyone wants to go visit, that'll change a lot of things. 2 judges have found that he was a member of the Mexican MS-15 gang.
MS-13?
13. And that's why they didn't send him back down there right away, because there was a fear that a rival gang, in other words, a gang different than his, was going to kill him. So right there, if you're fearful of a rival gang, then you are a gang member. That was one truth that became obvious. The other point is that if millions of people were let in by Biden, which they were, without due process, it's going to take 30 years to deport them all, to find them, round them up, take them away. So one of the incentives that they're setting up is they'll pay folks like $1,000 getaway card if they'll just go back across the border peaceably. Whereas they're threatening, if we catch you out there and you're an illegal, we'll send you away and you never can come back because you broke the laws coming in. But if you go peaceably without our knowing it, you have a chance to apply for citizenship, come back in and do it. Truth.
Well, you look at it like this. You know, they're using our own laws to screw us, is what they're doing. Basically, they let all these millions of people in, and then, oh no, you can't let them out till each one of them has a judge lift and lower his gavel.
Yes. Which
means 30 million times you're going to do that? I don't think so. You know, to me, due process is whatever process is due you. It doesn't mean judge, jury, and all this other stuff. It means, what do you deserve? You know, what is due you? And he's had his due plenty of times. And it brings to mind, are you familiar with Norse mythology?
Norse?
Yeah, some.
I don't know. How you spell Norse or Norse?
Yeah, no, I think that's what he's talking about. Norse, like the Norsemen.
Norsemen,
Vikings.
yes. Okay, like Vikings. Okay, the Norsemen. What about them then, Don?
Did we lose Don?
Shows up. He's still on with us if he chooses to be. I didn't push a mute button or anything. So, Don, are you with us?
Did Don just drop dead on us?
I don't think so. But I'm going to do this. I'm going to put him on hold or mute, and so we can continue talking. But we're about the point, in fact, we're there, where I need to play a couple commercials. So I'm going to do that, and then we can come back.
Okay.
First impression. Hi, this is Bettina McBee from Bettina's Buzz on SantaCruzVoice.com. And that first impression is my business card created by Dynamic Press. It is my favorite business card. It gets everybody's attention right away. If you want to make a good first impression, get your business cards and any printed media at Dynamic Press. And tell Angelo Bettina sent you.
Time to eat and talk business. Chef Ben here from the Back Nine Grill and Bar, inviting you to talk business over a leisurely lunch or a formal dinner or maybe a quick libation. The Back Nine is the easiest place to get to in Santa Cruz County. Easy off the Pasatiempo exit with ample parking and great food. The Back Nine is the place to meet for business and great food. Time to eat and talk business. See you at the Nine.
Get hooked up with affordable cannabis at your locally owned Hook Outlet, where everybody above the age of 21 can participate in the Hook's loyalty program. Each purchase earns you 2% store credit on your next purchase. Get hooked up with the best cannabis at affordable prices at the Hook Outlet in Capitola and Watsonville, or order online at hookoutlet.com. Get hooked up at the Hook.
Attention content producers. You can have access to a complete digital media production facility at Satellite Co-working and Digital Media Studio on Soquel Avenue. Easily rent video and audio equipment, a studio with green screen, editing suite, and audio booth, all at can't say no rates. Schedule a tour to see for yourself at satellitecoworking.com. Mention Santa Cruz Voice for 20% off your first reservation.
Yes, folks, don't get too carried away. We are the same show that we started with, celebrating Cinco de Mayo, and we're doing it right now with a little bit of the Mexican hat dance, something I learned to do when I was something like the second or third grade on what we called May Day at our public schools in the month of May. Didn't have to be on the 5th of May or on the 1st, just sometime in May. Did you ever have anything like that, Vernon?
I'm getting too old to remember, Jeff. It seems to me we did. Even though I think that you might be a little older than me.
You'd remember that if you had it. We have another caller, and I'm going to try to find out what this caller would like to say. Just give us a little try here. Hello, caller, are you with us?
That's me. I'm back.
Is this Don?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, I thought we had two Dons going here, but either one is good, and I'm going to keep this one on because you're doing good with us. So what would you like to talk about in today's world events, besides maybe Cinco de Mayo? How our government's doing, how bad it's doing, how good Trump is, how bad, whatever. You sound like a very conservative folk, so I guess you're going to be kind of pro-Trump.
Well, I'm pro-Trump. I'm not conservative, though.
Oh.
I don't consider myself a conservative person. I mean, other people might look at me as conservative, but I'm American. And America means a lot to me, And I'm not fiscally conservative. I'm not even socially conservative. I am American, and I believe very much in America. And I believe that we have people trying their best to screw America up, turn us into Europe, turn us into a bunch of socialistic cows that wait for Big Daddy government to tell us which hand to wipe with. I'm very much against that. And what I was saying before I was telling you about Norse mythology.
Yeah, let's go ahead with that.
Loki was the first liberal, using the rules against people. Loki had done something wrong that required him to be beheaded. And so Thor was going to chop his head off.
Well, now
And
you're
Loki
talking
said,
about the movie.
No, this isn't a movie. This is actual Norse mythology.
Oh, well, I guess maybe they brought
And
that into the movie, all about Thor, and then he had a brother, Loki.
well, Thor was ready to chop his head off, and Loki said, I can have one last request according to our laws. And they said, yep, you get one last request. What is it? He said, well, my request is that Thor chops my head off in one swoop, but he must chop off 100% of my head and not touch any of my neck.
Okay, sounds like a
Think
delicate
about that.
operation.
Well, he couldn't do it, of course, so he got off. He didn't get his head chopped off.
Oh, well, that's
Is
clever.
that
That's
kind of
what
like the
we
Merchant
have.
of Venice? You can take my heart, but not whatever it is, 1 ounce of my blood or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember Biden
Uh-huh.
saying anything like that. He just wanted to kind of fade away.
But
But
see,
people are
that's
saying
what we're
things.
dealing with in right now. They want us to. They're like zombies. They mumble rule of law, due process, constitutional crisis. These are just buzzwords for them. They have no idea what they mean, but they know it slows everything down. And that's what they're doing to us. They're slowing everything down to the point where by the time we get people out of here, they'll be collecting Social Security.
If it's still there.
If it's still there. And here's something that will show you that I'm not a conservative. I think we should raise the tax on Social Security.
Well, that's different.
That would solve all of our problems.
Well, it would solve one problem, namely not having enough revenue in our coffers for all the spending we want to do. But what does it do to the people who put the money in all that time and now expect to simply retire not having any income other than what Social Security is? In other words, what you're saying is lower the amount of Social Security they get.
No, I'm saying raise the tax on Social Security.
That's right. But if you tax something,
raise the tax on Social Security. Only give Social Security to people who deserve it. Okay,
namely
and
people who
Social
put the money
Security
in.
will take care of itself.
Well, I don't know the numbers on that, but if you can come up with them, we'd be glad to hear them. It was run several
the
different.
numbers are how much do we lack? How much are we short on Social Security? Raise the tax to cover it.
In other words, take
That's
away
it.
some of the Social
It's quite
Security.
simple. It's math.
Yeah.
It's very simple math.
Well, if you take a
So
number,
much is going out.
if you take the number, the amount you are supposed to get each month, each year, and then take money away from that to tax them, then you're lowering the amount of their Social Security.
We're not taxing people on Social Security. We are taxing people who are working and already getting so much taken out towards Social Security.
That's right.
Raise that tax.
I see.
Okay.
In other words, raise the amount you take from earned tax earners.
Back to, I used to follow those, the trustees' reports every year. One of the last ones I looked at within the last 5 years, said that in order to break even, they would have to raise all withholdings to around 22%. And we're at roughly 15 right now.
In other words, we run out of money around 2030 or so.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a defeatist attitude. I think we can solve Social Security.
Don, stop a second. I'm going to stop you. Don, it's not a defeatist attitude to just make a comment that the amount of money, revenues that need to be withheld to keep Social Security solvent based on what's going out needs to be raised. That's not a defeatist attitude. That's a statement about accounting and reality. So I'm not going to let you get away with that one.
Hey.
Accounting and reality from people who don't know how to count.
Don, I'm going to stop you again. I want you to go back. We'll have this conversation next time, okay? I want you to go back to the Social Security Administration. Start looking at the withholdings from beginning up till now. If you look at it, what you find is that many of the people on Social Security, a high percentage of them, are getting back considerably more than they ever paid in due to the low withholdings that were held back then. They had to readjust the holdings, and I think it was roughly 1988, because it would have gone broke a lot sooner, and because prior to that it was 7%. The age that we're living to now has exceeded the amount of money being taken in to pay for it. So, listen, I appreciate your intelligence, your understanding, but you've oversimplified a problem. And to say we're not taking in enough to continue the payouts is a legitimate thing to say from an accounting standpoint.
Well, I'm a very simplified person when it comes to math. And if you take in more than you put out, then you're doing good.
Yeah.
And basically, Social Security needs people in jobs pouring money into it, more people pouring money into it than taking it out, okay? And how do you do that? You grow the job base. You have more people working, more people putting money in. I mean, you have to have a positive attitude about this.
Don, I got a positive attitude, but you're taking what they would call in algebra a multivariable problem and simplifying it to a single variable. There's two different ways you can take in more money. You can either put in more people in the workforce. That's true, but in the final analysis, you're going to pay out more in the back end because more people put in. This is the same problem the Democrats have when they say all we need to do is raise the ceiling on the amount that we withhold. Because what happens if you do that, and if Social Security is nothing more than kind of a savings, then on the back end, when those people that put in that much more retire, you're going to be paying them out more. What you always wind up doing is delaying the payouts, but you still always wind up paying out more than you take in. If you have the same base and raise the amount that you take in, you offset the problem and account for.
Well, then you're using Elon Musk's phrase of.
No, Don, I'm going to stop. Don, I'm not going to let you get away with that. I'm not using any Elon Musk. I happen to be quite educated, and I don't usually tell that to people. I've had a lot of mathematics, so don't be telling me I'm using Elon Musk stuff for a problem and an issue I've studied for many years, worked out many numbers on, and don't be doing that dance with me on the air.
Well, how about that? Vernon speaks his mind. And I'm glad he does, and that's why he's here. He's trained not only as an engineer, but in mathematics. I had a similar education. Actually went to Stanford on a math scholarship and went ahead with an MBA program, too, with all my accounting. I think I know what I am up against when I look at Social Security, but I still leave it to those experts to be the actuarians who actually carry it out.
Yeah. So
I put Don on hold for a second while I get back to where I was at about 5 minutes into the program today, where he's still out there. If he wants, we can get back to him. Just get this last little piece in, because we started by talking where did the first constitutional crisis occur. It came up with the Civil War, and the issue there really wasn't so much that there was a war, which obviously created a crisis. You had Democrats leaving the Senate and the Congress and going home. But he also wanted to suspend habeas corpus. And that would be something that's guaranteed to us under the Constitution. But strangely enough, the Congress approved that. So it would have been kind of a stretch for him to do. But they said, okay, go ahead, because it's important that we not be tied up with all these habeas corpus proceedings dealing with either people who were captured or dealing with the black population that was being released into the population, all these sort of things. So that was a crisis constitutionally. And the next one I could come up with was the New Deal. There was a lot of proposals made by FDR, Roosevelt, coming through the recession and leading up to the war and then through the war, centralizing power in Washington, D.C., creating some of these bureaucracies we say now we call the deep state, or at least enhancing them with more powers. And some of his programs that he proposed were met with lawsuits and ended up in the Supreme Court. And at first, they chopped him down. So what did he do? He came back and said, well, we'll just pack the court with more of my Superior Court justices, and they'll rule today. And then the Supreme Court backed off a bit, and they actually did approve some of his programs. But there was a crisis. The point there is that the 3 levels of government solved the issue and moved on. We may not like how they solved it, and we still have to deal with how so much government we have today because it was solved that way. But we can change things, which is why Trump is doing what he's doing. It's why the Democrats object to what he's doing, and why the courts weigh in as they think they should. And to his credit, Trump said he would obey any judicial decree.
Yeah, I think there's that it's easy. It's easy to get lost as human beings in where we wind up being. You could say it. You might call it victims of framing. To call something a constitutional crisis because it's a disagreement is one thing. But there's another interesting thing that comes up with the what's his last name? The current one that was exported to Venezuela. And that someone brought up the other day is that in the federal registries regarding the laws that were passed is okay, you want to give all these people due process. There is a law in the books that says that anyone that's been here 2 years or less can be exported without due process, which opens up the ability to totally go after and eject the flood of illegals that came across the border over the last 2 years, which amounts to about 6 million people. And so you got to be careful which roads you go down to make your point, because you've just opened up another can of worms there. I don't know if people are aware of this, and I didn't write it down. I didn't realize we were going to be talking about this. But
well, that's all right. You have a lot of stuff in your bank knowledge of things. And by the way, Don is back with us. I cut him back for a bit.
I'm about to go, but I gotta put this out. If you're gonna have a battle of wits with Vernon, do not come unarmed. Vernon's a great mind.
By the way, Don, I've never taken economics, but the one thing that I learned about economics was from the father of one of my best friends, the now departed Colonel Armstead, who told me something. He says, something you need to remember about all accounting that will always keep things straight. It's always just a matter of money in and money out. It might get very complicated in the number of accounts you have, but it's always a matter of money in, money out in terms of balancing the books. You can come up with different ways to bring in money, and you can come up with different creative ways to put it out. And that was my only issue with you, is clearly you can get more money if you get more people in the workforce. You can clearly get more money if, in fact, you tax at a higher level the income of people that are making the 150, 200,000, a million, whatever. But in terms of the way Social Security is set up, that bites you on the back end, because when you increase more people to get your money in base, you also increase the number of people taking it out later. And when you also increase the amount you take from people out of their income later, since it's not supposed to be a tax, they get back more later. And so, although that sounds good on paper, you have to reconcile that.
Yeah.
Well, my take on economics, I never took an economics class, not even home economics. But to me, I go by this rule. If you laid every economist end to end, every economist in the world end to end, they still would not reach a conclusion. Okay, that's just the nature of the beast. And before I go, your Cinco de Mayo stuff,
yes, sir.
I think Cinco de Mayo celebrations were started by Mexican food companies.
Yeah, I meant that out, that they're promoting wines and such.
It has nothing to do with Mexico.
Well, it does. It's to do with the Mexican culture, and most of the Mexican culture comes from Mexico, of which California was once a part.
Yeah, but if you go to Mexico, the Cinco de Mayo is not a big deal.
Yeah, only in certain places like Puebla. It's a big thing.
Yeah, only El Grito. That's the big one, the 16th of September. But we don't celebrate that here. We celebrate Cinco de Mayo.
Yes, although Mexicans are free to celebrate all of the holidays if they wish. The more the merrier, we say.
That's true.
And to both of you with me on the show
anyways,
at this time, I say, we may disagree with what you say, but we want to hear it. So, Don, keep with us when you want to come back next week. We'll have just more of the same. We're going to do this over and over. No more.
Well, thanks.
Cinco de Mayo.
Thanks for letting me on.
I didn't mean to be so harsh on you either, Don.
Oh, it doesn't. What is that? You can beat me, kick me, whatever you do. Just don't bore me.
What you said, Don, raised something in my thought that when someone looks pretty ugly, they say, "Oh, they look like they got in an axe fight without an axe." Well, next time, bring your axe, and Vernon will have his axe, and I'll just sit here and watch it all happen. So,
all righty. Well,
takes two to tango.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, and we'll talk to you another time.
Okay, bye-bye.
So, Vernon, we're still on this issue about what is this constitutional crisis everyone's talking about, and one of the things that got my ire was that not too long ago, Senator Schumer of New York was on television bragging about he and his Democrat friends managed to wheel through Senate the total of 275 federal court judges, all of the progressive ideals, for the very purpose of stopping Donald Trump.
Yes.
Now that's power, and wielded maybe in a way you don't want to see, but it is what people do when they want to do it.
So, Jeff, this is my question. Is a human, they're going off on a philosophical bent, is a human species, we talk a lot about things without defining our terms. If you're going to say we have a constitutional crisis, the question is, what do you mean by that?
Yes, and that's what I had to ferret out, and I could only do it by examples. Just as I have trouble with some of the other issues of the day, unless you have something tangible to compare it to, it kind of gets lost. But I think we have another person calling about Social Security, so let me see if I can get that. I'll change gears here a little bit. Hello, guest. Can you hear us?
Yes, this is Jennifer. I want to talk to Vernon, please.
Sure.
Well, he's here listening. That's why
I'm
he's
ready
on
to
here.
be beat up on.
It's about Social Security?
Yeah. On your calculations, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. On the calculations of Social Security, I heard the debate between you and Dawn. So the people that are receiving Social Security right now is basically the baby boomers.
Yes.
And in their time, they did not earn even close to what people earn today. So the newer generation will be putting so much more into the kitty. So only part of that money should go behind to the people behind them, and the rest of it will go forward with them. Would that not be correct?
Yeah, it's...
people today can earn $1 million a year,
Yes.
$20,000-$30,000 a month. I mean, I've got, tradespeople here that make $1 million a year. So people earn a lot of money now. In our generation, nobody earned that kind of money.
I know, but in our generation, well, not the generation before ours, the Social Security comes along. It was when it was voted in 1939, 1943, something like that. I can't remember when. It was a supplementary income, first of all, and
Yes.
and the life expectancies were around 60, between 62 and 65. My grandfather died just prior to getting Social Security, so they never expected people to live to the average life expectancy of 78. And in those early days, they were only withholding like 3%, 4%. So a lot of us, in fact, I'm a baby boomer, born in 47, one of the older ones, because it starts in 46, they say, is the current withholding of 15% total didn't come into existence until 1988. I became of working age, so to speak, and in the system in the early 60s. So for 20 years, whatever I put in was at those lower rates. And they adjusted the withholding rate at that particular time because it would have gone broke at that particular point in time. And now what we're faced with is, luckily is we're living much longer. That's great, but we're still pulling it out. And when I did a lot of these calculations a long time ago, because my father got a medical degree, and I thought, okay, how much would he get back versus what he'd paid in had he worked from 1965 to retirement age and then lived as long as he did. And what I came up with is the amount of his withholdings at the maximum withholdings would have been something like 78,000 or 80,000, maybe 100,000 withheld, versus the amount that he would have gotten back by the time he passed away, which was just in 2016, would have been close to in the hundreds of thousands. So the amount of payout would have far exceeded what he paid in.
I understand that, but the people back in 1965 didn't have the earning power that people have today. So today, based on that same 15%, they're going to be paying a lot more money into Social Security than the generation before them, quadruple what people paid back then, and it should be enough to supplement the people behind them and still be able to boost the people ahead of them. I know it's time to go. So I was just really confused.
Bless you. Well, you call. Listen, here's the other problem with that is that it's not enough, and then at the back end you have to pay them out back that money because it was supposed to be a withholding, not a tax. Call next week, would you? I really appreciate the interaction. Yeah. And by the way, I want you to know something. I've heard many over the years that, why don't women call in? I'm going to tell you, women will call in if you got something they're interested in.
Yeah.
How about that? I like that. I'm interested. I'll listen too. Now, we're going to wind the show down in a few minutes, but on the issue of Social Security, it was never really intended that one could live on just that alone. You should have some savings. You should have some investments that grow along the way. On the other hand, into today's markets, where you're scrapping for the cost of food and essentials, how do you save money? How do you set aside any that's not taken out by Social Security? Maybe you have an investment program where you work or something.
No problem. A lot of baby boomers can't afford to live.
Yeah, exactly.
They barely meet their obligations. Back in the day before 1965, everybody had a pension plan. They went away. They're starting them back again, from what I understand. But, yeah. So, a lot of us have 401ks and that from our employers, but we're not in that generation that makes so much money.
Yeah, we've switched here from having
if I would have made a year in my work life, trust me, I wouldn't even think about Social Security.
Right. And some people waive it. They don't need it, don't want it. But everyone should take it.
No, I get that. Yeah, I get that.
I really appreciate this call.
Yeah, well, thank you for calling in.
I'll talk to you guys next week.
Thank you very much.
Right. That's two people we might have. Bye. Wow, it's going to get crowded in this little room of ours. And as we start to close down, think in terms of all the other things that are going on in this world. There's many more we haven't touched that are affected by things that we see in the news. And so we are going to be prepared to deal with those when we come back, just as we were today. But I have something to say in terms of our celebration of Mexican stuff. Let's see. Yeah, it's adios time, but we still have some messages we want to convey here just in looking at what's coming ahead. Is yes, tune in next week because we'll have more of the same. And there's going to be other people that you should be wanting to attend to that are available on this radio program of ours. You can donate money to support these programs by going on to the SantaCruzVoice.com website, and there's a place up there in the right corner saying donate, want to donate. Or patronize some of our good sponsors, one of which is our landlord here at the Santa Cruz Voice Studio, namely the Satellite Building, where they rent out space for people either on a daily or weekly or just occasional purpose, so you can have a place that's quiet and well stocked with what you need to do your work, and not having a big expensive office of your own that you have to maintain. So there are other programs here that we should pay attention to that gives you more of the local issues. One is Becky Steinbrunner on her Community Matters program every Friday at 2 o'clock? Yeah, from 2 to 4. And she's followed by Jim 2 with his Danger Zone. And one of the reasons I like that is I'm on there occasionally as one of his guests. Just like we have my friend Vernon Bohr with us on this program here today. And another good one, the Noon Balloon is good any day of the week, Monday through Friday. But especially, I think, on Thursday, the Noon Balloon is hosted by Maggie Mari Segura, who is, in my estimation, a real natural in this radio business. We're glad to have all these good people, and they've been so helpful to me to lend an ear whenever I needed to know what to do next or how to fix something I wasn't fixing. So adios, everyone. Celebrate Cinco de Mayo.